Hello and welcome to the 53rd episode of the Honesty Pod with me, Beth Quatenton. Here you will find nothing but honesty, whether you like it or not, and things that you need to hear. So today's episode is very much going to be on the topic of if you're on the pill, listen to this. And we're going to deep dive a little bit into the history of the contraceptive pill because I hadn't really done that before and it's kind of baffled me a little bit, and I feel like some people would find this quite interesting. So hopefully you guys have made it onto this podcast and you're listening to this right now or watching this right now. Also, for those of you watching this, I have changed the camera angle slightly, so I hope you enjoy. But yeah, let's kind of get into it. Also, before we get into it properly, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, drop the video a like. It really helps me out and it means that I can help more people and reach more people. If you're listening on Spotify, please give me a review, a very honest one. And also, what else? Oh yeah, if you have Instagram or TikTok, please follow the pod, which is at the Honesty Pod on both of them. And then also my own personal Instagram is at BethQ Fitness, and it's the same for TikTok as well. Okay, so that's the little admin bit out of the way. So let's get into it a little bit more, right? So throughout this podcast, I will be reading a fair amount from my screen just because I've done a lot more research, and I'll kind of chuck in my own, I guess, stories with being on the pill. I currently am on the pill at the moment as well, just to kind of let you ladies know, and gents, if you're listening, love it. So yeah, I'm gonna be reading quite a lot of stuff from articles that are, just information I've gathered that I think that you guys would find interesting. And so yeah, let's get into it. So let's first go through the history of the contraceptive pill. Because obviously for I guess my generation, it's always been there. It's always been kind of something that, right, okay, when you become sexually active, you go on the pill, or, you make some kind of steps to go on some kind of contraception, right? So we've always been very fortunate of that. However, this was not always the case, because the contraceptive pill was not actually developed until the 1950s. And I know maybe for some of you, you're like, yeah, well, that kind of makes sense. I don't know, for me, I was a bit like the 1950s, that realistically wasn't, it was like 70 odd years ago, 72 years ago. We've only had the contraceptive pill for 72 years. And I don't even think that was when it kind of came out as such. It wasn't like verified by a lot of places. I think it took quite a few more years to yeah, it did actually. Going through the history, which we will be going through, it did take quite a while for people to kind of accept it and allow like their nation to distribute it, essentially. So let's get into it. So the contraceptive pill was developed during the 1950s by American scientists led by Dr. Gregory Pincus. I probably said that very wrong, but there we go. And with the support of women's right campaigner Margaret Sanger, I'm going to say that's probably wrong also. As a hormone-based contraceptive, it mimics the conditions of pregnancy and therefore offsets conception. Ooh, we love it. So the pill was initially marketed for cycle control for good reason, because basically it was taboo as hell during this time. Like, if you spoke about the pill for, reasons of not getting pregnant, that was massively like looked down upon. It was almost criminalized. It was, me reading through this, I was like, what the actual hell? A tiny little pill, half the size of a pea, was criminalized and was kind of looked down upon by so many people. That to me is baffling, and especially because I've been on the pill on and off since I was 17, I think, and I'm now 25. So that in itself, baffling. Anyway, I'm so glad times have moved forward. Anyway, so as I was saying, the pill was initially marketed for cycle control for good reason. Socially, legally, and politically, contraception was taboo. So that's almost saying that having sex for pleasure was taboo, and you know, we should only have sex to reproduce. Like, how crazy is that to hear in today's world that 70 years ago contraception was taboo? Like, that, mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. Anyway, let's continue. In the United States, the Comstock law effectively prohibited public discussion and research about contraception. I'm sorry, but that is crazy. Are you joking? So you couldn't talk about it, and you couldn't research about contraception. It was literally against the law. Baffling. Absolutely baffling. Anyway, let's continue. This was controversial and an outdated law established in many US states since 1873. Holy shit. That defined obscenity, and was enacted to control the sale and distribution of obscene materials. It essentially lumped talk about contraception with pornography. So they're literally lumping talking about the pill and avoiding pregnancy, you know, and still being able to have pleasurable sex without the risk of having, you know, falling pregnant. And they're literally like, this is in the same category as pornography. Craziness. Let's continue this craziness. In Canada, under the 1892 Criminal Code, any discussion of birth control was illegal, and in fact it was considered obscene, tending to corrupt morals. That was in quotes. Although the pill was available by 1960 for menstrual regulation, okay, so they're still not admitting to the fact that this is to prevent falling pregnant, you know. They're still saying, you know, it's due to kind of like almost female health and making sure that the menstrual cycle was as it should be, and if it wasn't, then they'd put people on the pill. Craziness. It was not legal to discuss contraception or prescribe the pill for the indication of contraception until 1969. 1969. It was not like talked about. Honestly, when the Canadian Parliament decriminalised, the Canadian Parliament literally had to decriminalise contraception by passing the amendments to section 251 of the Criminal Code. Absolutely baffling. I'm shocked. Physicians at the time could prescribe hormones for any reason other than birth control, e.g. control cycle or menstrual irregularity. If they prescribed the pill for birth control, they were breaking the law. That is just absolutely mind-boggling. If they prescribed the pill for birth control, they were breaking the law. What the hell? In 1968, Pope Paul, I don't know what number that is, released the Catholic Church's first official position on the birth control pill. Human vitae of human life. I don't know what that means. Condemned the pill as an artificial means of birth control and thus as sinful. They literally were like, this thing is sinful. Kind of almost like being like, cocaine is sinful and ketamine is sinful, and also birth control pills are sinful. Imagine if that was still the same today. I mean, I'm so glad it's not. So incredibly glad. We have made leaps and bounds in this area, but it's still baffling. Anyway, let's continue. Right, so despite these advances, come on, Beth, we got this. It still means that women alone are planning and executing the contraception method in more than 2/3 of cases, including shared methods and male condom use, which women often negotiate. Women are involved in more than 90% of all contraceptive use, and I think that's pretty much the same today. While not having this burden might be a boon to men, at the same time, which, you know what, I'm about to agree with what I'm about to read. Men lose autonomy by not being responsible for contraception. Indeed, in a new era of paternity testing and legal complications of child support, some men have expressed a need to protect their own interest by asserting their own roles in contraception, and as they goddamn should. If you're worried, you know, if you're sleeping with someone that you're not really in a relationship with, maybe it's like a one night stand kind of thing, men should realistically be like, okay, I'm going to make sure I wrap up, you know, rather than thinking, oh, it's fine, the girl will probably be on the pill, or the girl will probably have some kind of contraception. If you're that worried, make sure you wrap up. And, you know, if they're not a fan of it, then just be like, cool, this ain't going to happen, you know. I've met a lot of men like that, and I'm like, yeah, fine, absolutely fine. Obviously, we probably all prefer to do the act without a condom, because it's obviously a lot nicer. However, you can save that for when you get into a relationship and you both kind of decide, right, this is how we're going to prevent pregnancy, and, you know, just both be in agreement with that, you know. Okay, so I also did a little bit of research about GPs prescribing the pill, because if you listen to the last episode, I talked a lot about how GPs are notorious for prescribing the pill for basically things that they don't really need to prescribe it for, or, you know, to potentially cover up other conditions, and yeah, just basically prescribing it when it doesn't necessarily need to be taken, you know. So let's go through this. So a foundation year 2 split placement between an inner city general practice, a GP, and a sexual health centre highlighted the vast difference in the quality of contraception consultations, I do apologise, I will get into my flow in a minute, between the two settings. Okay, so they're basically doing a study on what the consultations are like in sexual health clinics in comparison to like a normal GP practice, you know, which is, I think, probably where most of us go to get our first lot of contraception anyway. I know that was the case definitely for me. Okay, let's continue. 80% of contraceptive care occurs in the GP setting. There we go. So 80% is where, you know, most people go to their GP to get some kind of birth control. In the GP, combined contraceptive pill/oral contraceptives prescriptions are seen as an easy and quick consultation. And through anecdotal observation, we noticed that such consultations often did not meet the safety and standards of similar consultations occurring in a sexual health clinic. And do you want to know why this is absolutely, obviously it's a study, so it is true, they've got evidence, etc. But also I have my own evidence, okay? So, how old was that? How many years was this? Maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. I basically, for a time, maybe 3 years, I had the implant, okay? So I've had it twice, I've had it in both arms, and with the implant, usually you kind of have one of 3 things happen when you're on it. Either you'll have no period, either you will have kind of like a monthly period, or you'll like continuously spot, which is quite frustrating. And obviously I was hoping that I was not going to fall into the continuously spotting category. Anyway, of course I did. So I went back to the GP and I was like, look, is there anything that we can do about this? Because obviously it's kind of not ruining my quality of life, but it's affecting it somewhat and it's kind of annoying. And they were like, yeah, that's fine, take this pill. So I was like, okay, right, I'm taking the pill alongside being on, you know, having the, having the implant, apologies. So I was like, okay, fine, we'll do this. So I was taking that pill with having the implant in for maybe 3 years. And it got to the point where I had to have it taken out and have a new one put in. So went to the sexual health clinic, that's where they advised me to go. Went in, explained what I wanted to happen and that I wanted the another implant put in, until the GP told me, or said, should I say, why are you taking this pill alongside being on the implant? By you doing that, you have increased your chance of having a blood clot by like a massive percentage. I can't remember what she said. So I look at her and I'm instantly thinking, holy shit, I have compromised my health without knowing, and the doctor did not tell me anything about this and did not say, actually, you should have only been on it for 3 months. They just continually kept renewing my prescription and saying it was fine. It was fine to take both, or take the pill whilst having the implant. So anyway, straight away, the nurse, she was lovely. If you do have any concerns about going into a sexual health clinic, please don't. They're all so lovely. And yeah, you know, you've got to look after your sexual health. Very important. So yeah, anyway, she books me in for another, to take out the implant and put a new one in. And then she gives me some other pills to take in the meantime, so that my chance of having a blood clot massively reduces. Anyway, I ended up deciding that I just wanted to stay on the pill and I didn't want another implant, because that kind of scared me a little bit. And that was the first time I lost trust in a GP, because I was thinking, you know, they have essentially put my health at risk for 3 years. I'm not really about that. I think I prefer to go to a sexual health clinic when it comes to anything in relation to my sexual health, and that's exactly what I've been doing since then. So yeah, I'd really recommend anything sexual health related, just go straight to the clinic rather than your GP, because most of the time the information is and the consultations are going to be a lot better than in the GP's office. Okay, right, anyway, let's continue. So this is where it gets a bit morbid, okay? So following the death of a 21-year-old woman attributed to a pulmonary, oh, I can't speak today, embolism, secondary to combined contraceptive pills / oral contraceptives. So basically she was on the pill, and because of it, or maybe her background history hadn't been checked properly, which is very important when they do consider putting you on the pill. It meant that she unfortunately had a pulmonary embolism, more than likely due to the contraception that she was put on. It had been publicly suggested that general practitioners often fail to provide a comprehensive safety check for stability for being on the pill. Mainstream media have stated that during such contraceptive consultations, safer and more appropriate contraceptive options are frequently not discussed. And that also has been true of my experience in the GP's office. Most of them, whenever I've kind of had to go in to talk about it for whatever reason, most of them have told me that, or they've kind of suggested the pill as the first port of call, and then they'll list the rest of them afterwards. But I am actually going to go through both female options and male options of contraception so that you're aware of all of them, okay? Right, so let's actually go through, because this is something that I haven't done, and I want to make sure that all of you are taking these safety precautions, okay? Because this is stuff that I've never been told before. I just found out through doing research for this podcast, and I'm so glad I've done it, because I had no idea. So anyway, these are the things that can affect the efficiency of the pill, okay? So firstly, taking certain medications. So if you take any enzyme-inducing seizure medications for epilepsy, could potentially impact your pill, okay, and its efficiency of working, aka it could be a case of it makes it ineffective and you fall pregnant, okay. Some antiretroviral therapies, ART, for HIV, I'm not going to say this well at all, Garizofulvin, an antifungal treatment, okay? So if any of those sound somewhat familiar and you maybe take them, or you know a friend does and they might be on the pill, please get them to research and contact the sexual health clinic or their GP, but ideally the sexual health clinic, okay? If you are taking herbal remedies such as St. John's wort, which is mostly the one that I found that does impact or can impact the efficiency of the contraceptive pill, stop taking it or potentially change contraception, okay? We want to make sure you are safe, ladies. Also, which is something that usually is discussed when you are given the pill, If you forget to take your pill or you take it late, if you are on a progesterone only pill, you must get your dose within the same 3-hour window every day for maximum effectiveness. Otherwise, obviously the effectiveness is going to go down, and we don't really want that, okay? And also something that I didn't actually think about, but it makes a lot of sense. Obesity or excessive weight, in a 2013 review of studies, reported that the following birth control options may be less effective for women with overweight or obesity doesn't make sense, but for women that maybe fall into the category of being overweight or obese, these may potentially affect the efficiency of them. So first we've got the combined oral contraceptives, the patch, and also emergency contraceptive pills, okay? So just be aware of that as well. Right, let's go through. Firstly, we'll go through the very, very annoyingly short list of ways that males can, or the contraceptives that males can use, okay? So firstly, as we all know, we've got the condoms, a barrier form of contraception that stops the sperm from reaching and fertilizing the old egg. And secondly, a vasectomy, okay? A minor, usually permanent, surgical procedure that stops sperm from reaching the semen ejaculated from the penis. They are literally the only two male birth control options. Absolutely ridiculous in this day and age, personally. However, there is some research into male birth control pills, which I think they are updating it in like 2023. They'll give us more of a review, but I think it's a few years away from actually kind of like coming out as such. But that's going to be very interesting when that does come out. And then shall we go on to the list of things that females can use for contraception? Right, so let's continue. First one, I don't really know what it is, I'm not gonna lie. So, caps or diaphragms, I've never heard of that. Obviously we've got the combined pill, condoms, so there are female condoms. I've never personally used them, but yeah, that is an option. Contraceptive implant, that's what I used to have. You can get the contraceptive injection, which I think you have every 3 months, if I am correct. The contraceptive patch, never knew that was a thing. Female condoms, yep, that's already been discussed. IUD, so like a device or coil that's kind of inserted into the vaginal cavity, canal, I don't know. IUS, which is basically like the hormonal coil. Natural family planning, so basically fertility awareness, so kind of tracking your period and being aware of when you're ovulating, so you can kind of have sex around that to make sure that you're less likely to fall pregnant. Progesterone only pill and vaginal ring, which also I've never heard of that. And then there also says here 2 permanent methods of contraception: female sterilisation and obviously male sterilisation. So yeah, kind of a bit of a crazy list in comparison to the males. But yeah, I thought that was very, very interesting, especially about the history of the contraceptive pill. And the fact that it used to be illegal to like talk about or do research on is just absolutely mind-baffling. I don't think I'm ever going to get over that. But yeah, so I hope that this has given you a little bit more awareness of the pill. And, you know, this isn't a podcast of me going against it. It's more just going to the right people to make sure that your health is top priority. So I would always say go to the sexual health clinic over going to the GP for contraceptive reasons, okay? Because as it's been proven, the sexual health clinic consultations are a lot more in detail, and I can also vouch for that because I've been to both. They go through a lot more questions with you, a lot more family history, which is very important, okay, when it comes to prescribing some kind of contraception. So please go to the sexual health clinic over your GP, because you could be done over by your GP like I was. And although nothing sinister happened, it could have, because obviously we read about that 21-year-old girl, unfortunately, that passed away. So on that note, I'm going to end this here. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And if you did enjoy it, please subscribe on whatever you're listening / watching this on. And follow me on Instagram at BethQFitness. if you're interested in finding out more about the body confidence coaching program that I run, and it is fantastic, and I am currently taking on more lovely ladies to change your life, change your mindset, make sure that your health and well-being is the top of the list for you. It is the priority for you, but also making sure that we're creating a program that is tailored towards you, your lifestyle, you know, the commitments that you have. You might have children, you might have a super busy job, you know, whatever it may be, we can work around it, okay? So yeah, if you want to find out more about that, drop me a message on Instagram at BethQFitness. Or if you've got any other questions about anything at all, or any potential podcast ideas you'd love to hear from me, please drop me a message or comment below if you're watching on YouTube, and I will, you know, get my little thinking cap on for you. So thank you so much for joining me again, and I will see you in the next one.